Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. What an amazing time of the year. Everybody's getting ready to celebrate Easter, and for many of us, it's a very religious, very sacred time. And for the children, of course, it's about Easter Bunny and the chocolate eggs and the Easter egg hunt and the expressions on their faces and the joy and the delight and far too much sugar and all those things that go along with this time of the year. So whichever way you celebrate Easter, make sure that you find some sort of peace and happiness in your heart, because that's what it's about. It's about enjoying the time we have here on earth and sort of just letting our cares disappear out the window and enjoying this magical time of the year with our family and our friends, and just be thankful that you've got, you're still breathing, you've got something to look forward to. It is a very, very magical time of the year. So, okay, the Simply Tarot card of the week this week is the Three of Cups. And it's one of my favourites because it's a card of celebration and bright happiness happening. So isn't that a magical card to come out at this time of the year where we are celebrating for many, many reasons? And I'm not going to go into the religious connotations of what Easter means. For those of you that are that way inclined, you'll be fully aware of that. You don't need me to educate you. But it is a time of celebration, of renewal, of hope, of joy, of looking forward to the future. No matter whether you believe in religious things or whether you don't, it is still a time of renewal and hope. And it's a time where we should take stock and celebrate the things that are happening in our lives. And, sometimes celebrations don't have to be because of big things. They can be because of small things that you've made a major milestone. And people used to laugh at me when I used to say this, but it's a celebration when you get to the end of the ironing basket. It's something to celebrate if you're not somebody that does your ironing as you bring it off the line. So there's many different reasons to celebrate this week. So you find something that's very unique and personal and special for you. So let's move on to the astrology section of the show, because we have quite a bit to get through today. We still have the sun in Aries. It's the Aries time of the year. So if you've got a bit of a spring in your step and you're finding that you've got lots of energy, that's probably why, no matter what star sign you are, because we've just gone into the new astrological year. And it's always exciting, I think, to feel something fresh and new and sparkly and sort of something that gets us out of bed of a morning, that motivates us to do something more with our lives. Now, particularly for Aries at the moment, I want to suggest to you that you really need to make sure that if there's anything that needs fixing in your life, particularly on an emotional level or on a physical level, or if you've been ignoring something that you really do need to go and get sorted out with your medical practitioner, now is the time. Please don't put it off, because a lot of Aries people are sort of saying to me, look, I'm feeling a little bit tired. I'm feeling a little bit as if I've been running a marathon. Well, maybe you have been. And it's about time now that you started looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, removing any obstacles out of your life. And sometimes those obstacles are on an emotional level. We're all human, no matter what star sign we are, and we all tend to carry emotional baggage with us, even though we think we've sort of released it, let it go, forgotten about it, chucked it in the trash or whatever. We still carry it deep down inside of us. So this is why, particularly Aries people at the moment, you're being asked to soul search, to look deep in your soul. If there's anything there that needs fixing on an emotional or a physical level, now is the time to do so. It may seem as if it's a little bit exaggerated or a little bit, out there at the moment, because you've got the Sun conjunct or holding hands Chiron, the planet, with the Arabian part, which is the wounded healer, which is where we look for areas in ourselves that need healing or fixing, whether it's physical or emotional. Also conjunct or holding hands Jupiter in Aries, where Jupiter is the planet of expansion, opportunity, new beginnings, things that we can really bring into our lives. A time when we shouldn't waste the opportunities that are there. But also Jupiter here can exaggerate things a little bit, blow them out of all proportion, make them seem bigger than what they are. So that's why I'm suggesting, if there is a health issue, please don't ignore it. Don't think that it's just your imagination. Go and seek some medical advice, do something about it. And if it's of an emotional level, if you've got things flooding back into your mind from the past, things that you think that are long gone, why would I be thinking about that? Why is that coming back into the conscious part of my mind? It's there for you to have one last look at it, deal with it, look at it, see if there's anything else that you can gain from that. Is there any more wisdom that you can gain from it? If not, then just release it and let it go and say, see you later, have a great life. It's time for you to be able to be ready to move on. Now, that also applies to Librans, Leos, and Sagittarius, not so much to the other signs. It's sort of watering itself down as it flows through to the other signs, but those 4 signs in particular. But the number one at the queue is Aries people. So we now move on to what's happening with some of the Tauruses in our world. And when we talk about Taurus, we're also talking about Scorpio, Virgo, and Capricorn. So we've got Taurus at the moment is the North Node is actually conjunct Mercury at the moment. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication, opportunity. It's the way that we communicate with the world. Now, with Mercury sitting here in Taurus at the moment, and it's conjunct or holding hands, which is what is known as the North Node, which is one of the nodes or another part of astrology that we look to for guidance. Now, the North Node here is showing us the way forward. So particularly for anybody in those signs that I've mentioned, communication is going to be key over the next couple of weeks, and particularly over the Easter weekend. You're looking at different ways to sort of get your communication heard. If you've got something really important you've got to say, or if there's been an issue that you've needed to bring up with a family member or a friend, make sure that you're going to do it in a way that is non-confrontive. Don't walk in there and be all armed, ready for a fight. Do it in a nice, gentle sort of approach. Make sure you have your listening ears on. It's a time of negotiation. It's a time of communication that I have my say, you have your say, I have my say, you have your say, and then hopefully we try and find a resolution out of that if there's an issue or a problem. It's not the time to go in there with all guns blazing and sort of ready to go to battle. This is not that sort of conjunction that's happening at the moment. It's about understanding, listening. It's also about sort of, bringing up topics that might be very important to us. Now, this doesn't matter what your star sign is. If there's communication that needs to be talked about, particularly over Easter, make sure that you do it in a gentle, calm sort of manner. Don't be sort of argumentative. Don't be sort of dictatorial. Don't be bossy. Do it in a nice, soft, gentle sort of way. And then that way that you'll find that you get more answers, that people are much more responsive to listening to what you've got to say because you are being gentle, you are being caring. You're not being negative. You're being a much, much better person to be around. So there may be some sort of, slight disagreements that might come up over the Easter break. Isn't it wonderful about holiday times? It brings out some of the family skeletons out of the closet that we thought that we'd long dealt with. All of a sudden they're there and we need to confront them again. I don't know what it is about holidays and get-togethers with family. I suppose it's because we have a lot of family members in one room and that's the ideal time to bring up these things. But it doesn't always make it for a pleasant time. We also have Uranus, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, is conjunct Venus in Taurus as well. So for those of you that might be seeking love or looking to sort of move into a new relationship or wondering when some really nice positive things are going to happen in your life, now is the time when we can attract new love. We have to be aware, though, that this person that we attract under this cycle may be somebody completely different. They may have a completely different outlook, maybe the type of person that we've never been out with before in our past, that's somebody that sort of really is intriguing and different. We also need to make sure that there is enough points of things there that really would glue a relationship together. It's all well and fine to being attracted to somebody daring and different and completely different from anybody you've ever attracted before, but there needs to be some common ground there. There needs to be something there to build a relationship on. Let's not just get sort of carried away with the point of, wow, this person's so different. Of course I must fall in love with them because they are so different. There always needs to be something there that holds a relationship together and not just the initial attraction of somebody looks wonderful or they really, I like being in their energy. There has to be a lot more than that makes a long-term commitment. Friendship is very, very important, understanding each other and also being there for each other and not sitting in judgment, but supporting the other person through their dreams and things that they wish to make a reality. We have Saturn, the planet of discipline, has just entered into Pisces, hasn't been there very long now. So Saturn here is asking sort of all the Pisceans to sort of really get their act together a little bit. It's about restructuring their lives. And restructure doesn't necessarily have to be difficult. It can be something that we do gently as we go along. It can be something that we sort of say to ourselves, yes, I'm very comfortable with this. I'm happy to make some changes in my life. I'm happy to grow up a little bit more. Maybe I'm happy to not sort of just leave things to chance anymore. Maybe it's time for me to start putting a little bit of extra effort in, some action in to make things a reality. So this is a good time to have sort of Saturn going through the sign of Pisces, because it means it's going to bring structure to their lives. And many Pisceans are very, very creative little souls. And sometimes with that creativity, they forget to be able to harness it or focus on it to a way that they can bring it to fruition. So Saturn sitting here will actually give them that discipline, will give them that structure that sometimes Pisces people really lack. It's sort of like they come up with these brilliant ideas. They're amazing to be around. They have this most wonderful outlook on life, but they forget how to structure things. They forget that you've got to meet deadlines and, you know, things like that are really important in the real world, that we do need to meet deadlines. So for Saturn is actually making a lovely aspect to Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer is the planet of action. It's the planet of, sometimes sort of people sort of call it the planet of war. I don't like to look at it in that way, because hopefully we're not going to have too many more wars in the world. But I like to look at Mars as being the planet of action. It's what gets us out of bed of a morning. It's what drives us. It's our ambition. It's our drive. It's our stickability, whatever label you want to put on it. So with Mars sitting in Cancer here at the moment, it's bringing that sort of really soft, watery, homely sort of feel, the nurturing sort of feel to everything. So it's interesting if you're trying to get a new project off the ground, regardless of your star sign, allow your creativity to run wild a little bit. Allow it to run wild and find its own level, and then bring in the action, the drive from Mars that can sort of bring things home. It's sort of like there's opportunities abounding. I know lots of people at the moment are looking at whether or not they're going to stay in current positions, current jobs that they're in. Is it time for a change? Is it time for a move? And for a number of people, it is time for a change, or it is time for a move. But this is about listening to your inner voice, listening to your inner intuition, and sort of saying, is this precisely the right time for me to be making a change? Or am I just being a little bit, I'm sick of everything and I want to overthrow everything because I'm bored, because I'm cranky, because I didn't have enough sleep? You've got to make sure that the changes are right for you, that it's not something that you just sort of are doing because you got out of bed the wrong side this morning. So the final planet I want to talk about is Pluto. Now, Pluto has just gone into Aquarius in the last 10 days. Now, he'll only dip his toe in the water, so to speak, here in Aquarius until about June. So it's interesting to see how Pluto is going to play out, because Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius in over 200 years. So we don't have a lot to go back on to look at and sort of say what are the symbolic things that how Pluto behaved last time it was in Aquarius. I've just noticed in this last 10 days that with Pluto in Aquarius, it's really interesting how people are really sticking to what they believe in, whether they're politicians or who they might be, or people in prominent positions, or even just yourself. It's like, well, this is what I believe in, and don't question it. I'm not going to give you a reason why I believe in it. I just do. So to me, Pluto is sort of intensifying that I know this is what I believe in. This is what's important to me, and I'll shove it down your throat whether you want to hear it or not. But this is my belief system, and don't challenge it. So I think all of us need to be aware that while Pluto has just dipped his toe into Aquarius, that we don't get on our soapbox and become too dogmatic in conversations that we're having, and shut our ears off to listening to someone else's point of view. It's really interesting because people will really go to the nth degree to defend a type of behaviour or a belief system or a way that they've always done things. And I think we're going to see this a lot in political circles around the world, where politicians are going to get up and say, well, this is the way it's always been done, and this is the way we're going to continue, because this is what the party believes in, and this is the party belief system, and this is how this country was founded. And we're going to see a lot more conversations like that, where it's almost as if they're trying to convince themselves that they've always been right. and there's no other way that we can look at something. Now, the Aquarian energy is about thinking outside the square, is finding new and innovative solutions. So it's interesting, it's almost in a tug of war where Pluto was sort of being so dogmatic and wanting to hang on to the old and the tried and the true, whether it's working or not, that's the way we're going and we're not going to change it. Where the Aquarian energy is coming in and trying to disrupt that and sort of, get a jackhammer in under the foundations and saying, are they really that secure? Haven't you thought of maybe a different way of approaching this? So I think we're going to be heading into some interesting times. So for Aquarians, you may be feeling a little bit uncomfortable, feeling as if your world's walking around on quicksand and not secure like it was. Just get used to it, because once Pluto moves in there, he's going to be there for a very long time. That won't be till the end of 2024 on a permanent basis, for a very long time, but we're going to have a few ins and outs up until then. So I hope that's helped you understand a little bit more about what's happening around the universe this week. We're going to talk with Trinaya in Seal Beach in California. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sure I haven't. But anyway, how can I help you today, sweetie? Hello, are you there, Trinaya?
Hello, hi.
Hi, sweetie. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Is there a question I can answer for you?
Well, I was actually looking for mediumship. As far as questions go, I'm looking for see how my financial situation is going to be, and with my new job, and also am I going to stick with it? But I also was just really into mediumship because I had several people that have passed away. So.
Okay, sweetie, look, mediumship is not something you can do in a couple of minutes to do it properly. What I can do is answer your question for you. If somebody wants to chime in from the other side, I'll be more than happy to pass on the messages. But they quite often get a little bit of stage fright coming through with the whole world listening in too. And it's something that, it doesn't always happen quite that quickly. So as far as your new job situation is concerned, I'm not sure that you're in the right job. I sort of feel a little bit uncomfortable still with it. Is that how you're feeling? Because to me, it's not sort of fitting like a glove, like I'd like to feel it should.
Not like I wanted it to, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to say let's give it a little bit more time, because I don't know that, like some things that we move into, and particularly with jobs, we walk in and day one it feels like it fits like a glove and it's where I'm meant to be and I feel like I'm home. And then there's other things that are a bit prickly. And this one to me feels a little bit prickly. It's not that you can't do the job. It's not that you're not competent. It's just that I'm just not sure the people are that friendly. It's sort of like everybody's sort of so caught up in their role. It's sort of people have forgotten to sort of say, hey, how are you? Are you coping? Is there anything I can help you with? I just feel by the end of April, the early part of May, I think you're going to feel a lot more comfortable with the role than you do now. And I do actually think it will grow on you. And interestingly enough, I think you're going to stay there for quite a long time. So it's obviously going to improve then if you're going to stay there for a number of years and not sort of, at the moment you're thinking, well, have I made the right choice? Should I be looking for something else? No, I don't think you should jump to that conclusion yet. Let's just sort of take one day at a time and see where it goes. You weren't wrong when you said there was quite a few people on the other side. I've got quite a gathering of people there all waving and saying hello. Nobody's sort of really coming through with any particular message other than they all want to be first. Is that how your family behaved?
Yeah.
That they all want to be the number one. They all want to be the centre of attention, because that's the way they're behaving to me, like a classroom full of 10-year-olds all going, look at me, look at me, look at me, as I'm over here waving. And that's how they're all, but obviously they're happy to be able to sort of, look at me, wave, and sort of get some sort of message through. So I'm taking it from that, with nobody sort of popping forward and saying, look, I have a really significant message that this has got to be passed on, that they're all happy with the way things are unfolding. Was there one particular passing of a female that you were puzzled by or was harder to get over the loss of?
Well, probably my mother, and that was the only female, but yes, it was a little bit disturbing for me, but yeah, I mean, that's all I could think of for a female, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just that this female came forward and she didn't sort of say much. She just said you'd had an issue or were more upset over losing her, as if there was question marks around it, as if you didn't fully understand it. That was the way she presented it to me. Was there question marks over her death? Was
Yeah,
it sudden?
and I still don't. Yeah, I still don't. It was my mother. I mean, she was on hospice. Yeah, and
Right.
I questioned it because one day she was, fine, and then the next day she's in hospice, and there's just questions about it, why did it happen so quick like that? So, yeah, I wasn't comfortable with the situation.
No, and that's why I think she brought it up. But she's sort of saying to me there was nothing abnormal about it, like it was just the way it was. Things just escalated very quickly. She was more upset about the fact that you were upset about that part than, I mean, it's always sad when we lose somebody. I'm not trying to minimize that, but that's the thing that's been standing out or bothering her, if I can put it that way, that you didn't have answers,
Okay.
that you were still questioning it and not just getting on with the process of grieving and missing her and remembering the good times, that you were sort of stuck in this groove. And that's why I think she pushed away to the front. Let me assure you, she sort of literally knocked people out of the road to get there, to get her say. And that was sort of different to the way, everybody was waving and sort of, as I said, behaving like 10-year-olds in a classroom. And then all of a sudden this woman pushed her way through to the front, and she was literally knocking people out of the road because she needed to get this message across. So there's nothing there that was sinister. I think that's the main thing she wants you to know, and she just wants you to get on with understanding that, she's happy, she's settled, she's not sick anymore, and she loves you and she misses you, and, enjoy your time with the family over Easter. Anyway, sweetie, that's where we're going to have to leave it. We're going to talk with Tammy now in Erin, Pennsylvania. Are you there, Tammy?
Yes.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweeties?
I'm trying to figure out if now is the right time to tell somebody that I love them, because I'm kind of scared to.
Okay,
and I'm not
sweetie.
sure if it's the right one or not.
The right time or the right person to say I love you to? The right time, is it?
Both.
Both. Okay. Well, sweetie, you're the only one that can answer whether or not you're in love with somebody or you love someone. It's not my role to sort of say yes or no to
Right.
that part. But,
I mean, I am. I'm scared to, and I don't know if it's the right time or not.
Of course, I can understand that. It's always a very difficult thing when you're in a relationship, and particularly when it's still relatively new. When do you bring up that L word? We don't want to frighten someone off, but at the same time, you want the other person to know that you are really serious about them and that they mean a lot to you, and that, the word love conjures up a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Sweetie, I don't know that you need to sort of try and decide whether this is the right time and, get all tense and upset about it and worried about it. Let's just let things flow in their own natural way. I think there's going to be a natural opening for those words to come out, and it won't be something that you've sat down and thought about or rehearsed or whatever. I think it will just happen, and it'll happen naturally, and I'm going to say it's going to be very well received, because I can see him turning around saying something to the effect, and I love you too, and I always have. So, let's not sort of put too much pressure on the situation. Let's just enjoy the time that you've got together and let things sort of flow. I think, we get so caught up in everything, particularly at the beginning of a relationship, where we don't want to frighten someone off by us being too strong, too emotional, too whatever. But at the same time, we need to find that balance to let them know that we're there and that we care for them, and, this is really important to you. I don't think he's the world's greatest communicator, and particularly when it comes to matters of the heart, he gets a little bit tongue-tied. He practices everything in his head 5,000 times, and then when he goes to say it, nothing comes out, and he sort of seems a bit clumsy or says something that seems really abstract or stupid. But look, I think once we get this initial I love you out, I think things will flow a lot easier. Look, I really think this union is very positive. I think the two of you are very, very well suited. You've both had some heartache in the past that you're both aware of and don't wish to repeat. But at the same time, I
Right.
don't think either one of you are frozen in fear of never falling in love again either. And sometimes that's the thing, people sort of promise themselves they're never going to be hurt again and they shut everything down so that they never allow love in again, or it takes a long time for it to come back in. But with you guys, I think it's, the block of ice is nicely thawing at a nice pace. And I think before too long, the two of you will be starting to talk futures and what we're going to do when we do this and when we do that as a couple, as a serious couple, which is good. So which one of you would move?
He would.
He would? Okay. Because that's
Mhm.
something
I
that
would
I
too,
know
but
that,
it's something
Yeah.
he's already looking at doing. So
I just felt that there, as things become more serious, there would need to be a move. And I don't mean moving into a house together. I mean a move that's a little
No.
bit more distant than just round the corner
Mhm.
to me. So that would be him, would
right.
it?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is,
He's already looking.
yeah, I was going to say that he's already starting to look, he's already been thinking about it, making plans. Now, that's not something that you do if you're not in love with somebody or believing that this is going to be a more serious connection than just a casual acquaintance. So, there's certainly sort of quite a bit of movement in the camp there. He's a really, really nice man. I just keep getting a lovely smile on his face. There isn't much that rattles his cage. He's a very patient man, a very caring man. He keeps telling me he's not really good with the words. And yet I want to say that, you don't have to write a novel. Just three little words, I love you, that can mean the world, can't they? I mean, you don't need a great
Right.
expanse past that point. It's just, I don't think he's ever really considered himself very romantic. And all of a sudden, he's got all these romantic ideas with you, buy the flowers, do this, say I love you, and tell you how beautiful you are. And he's got to try and bring that into his daily repertoire. But I do think he will, and everything will move forward. So, anyway, that's where we're going to leave the readings for today. So we've come to the end of the show again. I mean, the half hour goes very, very quickly, as I appreciate. And it's interesting because it's a time of the year where most of us miss the people that have left us, that we have them back in our thoughts. And, for many people, it'll be the first Easter without their loved ones. And that's a particularly hard time because it's a time when you're used to celebrating or have family get-togethers and meals together and a lot of laughter. And all of a sudden that one person is missing or a number of people are missing, and it makes it harder to sort of go on. But let me assure you, everyone that's gone before us wouldn't want to see you sad. They want to see you making new memories, happy memories, and getting on with life and celebrating, and have a little chat with them. Set up a little area that's just for those that are no longer with us, so that you can feel that you've made a special, place at the Easter table, or have an Easter egg for them. I mean, I'm sure they'll be pleased if you do that. So anyway, this week I want to leave you with a song that was written by one of the world's most prolific songwriters, and I don't think there'll ever be anybody that can write a song like this man could. And he wrote many, many songs, but this one in particular says it all. I Say a Little Prayer for You. Burt Bacharach wrote that beautiful song for Dionne Warwick. And it's one of the most beautiful, inspirational songs I think that we can have at this time of the year where, I will say a little prayer for you over Easter. So happy Easter, everyone, and see you next week. Bye for now.